Good morning. This is Thoughtful Thursdays from Tornado IP, our podcast which allows innovation to meet strategy and IP. And here with me today is Djordje Vukojevic from the University of Delaware Technical Transfer Office. Universities are important innovation powerhouses, but not every breakthrough becomes a business. So what separates a published patent from a protected, monetized IP asset? We would like to talk about how universities manage innovation. And I'm very, very excited here to have the university perspective. What does innovation governance look like in a university setting?
So that's a pretty broad question. It depends on the university, depending on whether it's a small university, depending on what the research and development budgets are with the university. Depends on the ecosystem that surrounds the university. But basically, you would have professors that do research, and when the research is about to get ready to be published, it has to be disclosed to a technology transfer office, and we have to assess whether or not that publication carries any technological merit. So we want to decide whether we need to file a patent, so that way we can actually monetize on the research. But more, it is not necessarily about monetization, but more so about the commercialization viability. So you really need to understand whether or not that technology can be used in the real world. And if it's just too theoretical, what are the market forces and things like that. So then at that point in time, you go ahead and file a provisional application, and then you have some time to see whether or not you can garner traction for that technology in order for it to enter the commercialization cycle.
What do you do to teach scientists and professors what they need to know about protecting innovation?
So this has been a kind of development across universities, especially in the United States, where you have these sort of seminars for professors, for students, whether it be a graduate or a postdoc, basically understand how to monetize on their research. Do they need to pivot from what they're doing right now in order to access an adjacent market that is very near their research but isn't really touching upon what they're doing right now? So that way they can access this new market. Let's say, for example, polymer recycling is becoming very popular right now. So if someone is dealing with polymers, polymer engineering, they should probably be aware of the fact that there are a lot of companies, a lot of consortiums out there that are trying to push this idea of polymer recycling.
What are the most common misconceptions scientists have about patents?
So they think that they can't really monetize on their patent. They also think that they can't further on monetize on their research. So they don't believe that there is any point in filing a patent. Sometimes they believe that the research itself is not patentable, that it is too fringe, that it is too theoretical, that there is not a company out there that is scientific fringe research. But as you can tell, there are so many startups that are dealing with research and development that is kind of touching upon the deep science sector, something that is really not tangible right now, but could be in the next 5 or 10 years.
How do you train scientists not to disclose in a conference? When you start working on something, some elements of it cannot be disclosed before you patent it. Do you teach them that?
So yes, there's we have patent attorneys, we have subject matter experts at the university, which are basically former executives of corporations or are still standing executives of corporations. We kind of get a little bit of this sort of notion. How are you going to protect this discussion, presentation, or poster session? So basically, we tell them it's very simple. You want to make sure that you delete or just blur, cross a section that talks about a specific enzyme, a specific molecule, or a specific chemical compound. So that's where they have to understand. And it seems like there are a lot of questions still at the point in time where you would think that they understand because they're not sure. So you really need to kind of have a very fleshed out, alive relationship with these inventors. So that way they are basically taken care of every step of the way. So that way they know and you know that the information that needs to remain confidential is protected.
How can companies be better partners to a university tech transfer office?
So that is definitely a very important question to answer. Companies, I believe, are unaware. A lot of companies are unaware of technology transfer. They're also unaware of technology transfer offices at the universities. So there are thousands of these technologies, but no one really understands how to navigate those technologies. And that's okay, but the least they can do is get to a form of understanding that they can reach out to these technology transfer offices, because that's why they exist, in order to create any form of collaboration. As of right now, you have such things as licensing agreements, you have material transfer agreements, but it is not so black and white. You do have the gray area for collaboration. There are symposiums, but then the company might believe, oh, well, I am not a part of that symposium, so I can't really enter this sort of an exclusive environment. That's not really the case. Really, universities, even companies, very large corporations are looking for ways to collaborate with medium-sized companies or even small companies. So really, it's all about understanding that all it takes is to reach out and start a conversation.
Okay, so now I have a few lightning round questions for you. AI drafting tools, is this an opportunity or a risk?
So they exist right now. There are some platforms that are dealing with technology transfer, that technology transfer offices that believe that AI drafting is utilized by technology transfer offices. But really, technology transfer offices, for the most part, go through a third party. Second party being the inventor, the third party being the law firms. The inventor might get feedback from subject matter experts, from people that we reach out to. They might get feedback from their buddies at some other company that they work at in a similar adjacent industry sector. But at the end of the day, it's important to understand that law firms are the ones that are using these AI drafting tools. So they definitely can help, but it is something that still needs to be further developed by a couple of these companies that specialize in law firms rather than technology transfer office type platforms.
And is there any particular way in which AI is facilitating the work that tech transfer offices do in terms of ability to monetize or make connections with relevant industries quicker?
Such a thing, and it's a very known kind of it's a very known algorithm where you basically input technology description and you are given a list of relevant companies with emails from people that work for those companies. So that way you can basically have an email campaign created. And I was an intern 5 years ago in a technology transfer office, and that we did not have this ability, so it was all done manually. Today you have the ability to basically have a very large number of companies being reached out to in a very short period of time, with a very small amount of effort being put into the email drafting.
Have you seen that being successful?
So it is successful to a degree. You can get some feedback. You can also get interest. And it's definitely further progress, considering it did not really exist over 4 years ago. So it is definitely a stepping stone towards something bigger that really needs to occur in order for these technologies to have a way of gaining the traction that they need. Large universities have the budgets, the programs for these technologies to be churned out into spin-outs, to be incubated with proper teams, with a proper surrounding. Smaller universities might not have the budget in order to create these spinouts and might not have the brand in order for certain venture capital firms to surround the technologies in a form of traction.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. This is Thoughtful Thursdays from Tornado IP. Join us again in these discussions.